I've walked that line, stood tall on the ridge, thinking the view meant the path was solid. Then watched it drop into a valley of confusion, feeling trapped inside the plan I built myself. But mountains aren't the enemy, blind spots or see the friction early and the climb turns clean. See it late and the valley steals your time, your momentum, your year, your revenue. If you wanna rise instead of drift, to climb the ridge instead of slide the slope, come and function my map, and I'll send you the guide to read your terrain before week 6 hits. January starts high, a ridge so clear and wide, the kind that makes a leader breathe a little easier. But the trail dips low when the quiet cracks appear, soft as dust, easy to miss, ready to multiply. The plan climbs strong, carries hope up the slope, every forecast shining like sun on early snow. But the valley hits hard when alignment slips, small steps drifting, turning into miles you didn't choose. One sits tall, bright-eyed on the ridge, team smiling, believing they see the same horizon. But week 6 sinks deep in the shadows, when tiny tensions widen into canyons. It's not the market that moves the mountain, not the wind, not the cold, not the climb itself. It's the friction beneath your boots, the unseen fault lines shifting under every decision. Friction grows fast, rising like a sudden peak, steeper than profit, sharper than any forecast. And revenue falls low when the drift sets in, quiet at first and loud enough to echo.
All right. Hope everyone enjoyed that song. I made that using AI. Man, what a fantastic tool. Hopefully some of you all got a chance to listen to that country song. It was actually something that I made just trying to make some light of what we're probably going to be talking about here today. Well, welcome, first of all, to everyone who joined in. This is called the Friction Map Live. This is for leaders who can't afford another year of surprises. Because in the position that you're in, you don't have the opportunity to guess. You can't guess not at the level that you're at, not at the level of gravity of your role. Your board, your team, and your customers expect certainty in with every step that you make. And it doesn't matter if the market gives you that certainty or not. So today, I'm going to spend a little bit of time and I'm going to show you where that hidden friction, that invisible friction, turns great plans, great intentions into unpredictable results. All right. Let me first start out by telling you a little bit about myself, a little bit about my background. My background is in AI and systems. My work has always been about turning complex, messy situations into something clear and actionable. I've worked inside of Fortune 1, the United States federal government, and other federal agencies like Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and environments where hidden frictions has real consequences, potentially getting people killed. So decisions, frictions had to be made the right way. I've also built 5 companies, with 2 of those which I've exited from. So I knew the mid-market leadership pressure of feeling something is off, not yet having the data to prove it, having had that gut feel where you say, something's not right, and not being able to necessarily act on it. Today, I run Carmo, and I've co founded an organization called the Accelerate Network. My focus is simple, it's giving leaders measurable clarity on the friction that's quietly shaping the results that are happening in their organization. I call all this the elegant theory. It's this belief that behind every messy problem, every messy business problem, there's usually one quiet, elegant reason. And today, we're going to find out which one is yours. First, as we get started into this, I'd love to hear where everyone's chiming in from. Please go to the comments. It's probably on the right-hand side of your screen or at the bottom where you can type in the comments. I'd love to hear where you're connecting in from. Thanks. It hopefully it can help me tune maybe a little bit of what I say here. So today's case, I want to start out with this idea of a plan that looked really solid, but you're a little uneasy presenting it. There was a little butterfly in your stomach. There's a gut feel that you had, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it. And let me state something here. That is, you're not missing targets. In 2026, 6 weeks in, 12 weeks into the year, you're not missing those targets because of poor planning. You're missing those because of those invisible assumptions that you were never able to see and ended up making the plans wrong. It's not that you were wrong, it's that frictions hide inside those assumptions. It's the conversations that you could have had or didn't know to have. It's the invisible assumptions. That's what causes friction in an organization. Look, your brain already knows, your gut already knows when something's off. You don't have the data to prove it. And we're in an increasingly data driven world. And part of the challenge of being in such a data driven world is that everyone wants to see proof of something existing. Well, guess what? Long before quantum physics existed, quantum physics was a real thing. Just because when we couldn't see the atom doesn't mean that it did not exist. And I'm starting to see a number of people chiming in here. Tom Lane, hey Tom, good to see you. Ann Hartley from Chapel Hill, Michael from Charlotte, Junaid from South Asia. Let's see, we got people from Durham and got a couple of others as well. So nice to have you all here. Please chime in the comments. I'd love to hear how you're seeing this, how you're receiving as we go through this. So I want to kind of get back into this and say, because you can't prove it means you can't fix it without political risk in this data-driven urge. We got to see proof. Seeing is believing. There's a lot in the world that doesn't actually appear to view. In fact, let me show you how significant this is. You'll see in the notes over here, it says on the slide, 67% of companies miss forecasts each year. That's according to Gartner. 67%. That means 2 out of every 3 companies miss their forecasts. Why? Because there's hidden, invisible frictions. So the question I'd like to ask here is how much friction do you believe exists in your company today or your organization today versus how much you can actually prove? So you don't struggle with just friction alone because some of it is very overt, some of it's very explicit, but it's the invisible friction you struggle with because you just can't see it. I'd love to hear in the comments. What do you think of this concept of invisible friction? Do you feel like it's something that you've witnessed, experienced, or ever thought of, just didn't have a name for? Because leaders don't, like you, don't necessarily fail because they're weak. They fall down because they weren't shown the bump in the ground. Think about this. In order for you to be able to jump, in order for you to be able to run, to sprint, like in this image over here on the left-hand side, you need friction. You need friction to be able to stop. But imagine standing on a tile floor that was covered with oil where there's very little friction, you wouldn't be able to stand. By the same token, uh, it's very easy to trip and fall because of friction that you didn't see. That little bump in the road that you didn't know that can cause you to trip. Think of that, how that analogy may extend to an organization. Tom Lane says, not just poor planning, there are lots of poor plans out there. For sure, Tom, that's definitely the case. Plans themselves are not 100%. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm gonna let's assume that there's a plan. The plan is not the problem, but you're right on. So smart leaders looking at the same business, they see different realities. And I'm going to zoom in on the screen in a second here, just so you all can see this a little bit bigger, because this is what we call a friction map. This is what causes predictable leaders like you to feel unpredictable results. Consider each one of those different lines on that graph is a different person on the same leadership team. They see the team, they as a team see the same organization differently. Each leader carries their own mental model, and that's why execution drifts quietly. And this is the part that you feel, but you can't articulate to others. You feel like you get along with some people, and others maybe not so much. Why? Because they have a different mental model of what the organization looks like. It's not a matter of whether right or wrong, it's more of how they perceive things. So, a question for you I'd love to see in the comments. Thanks for interactions already. When you look at something like this model here, this circle, what do you see? Do you see something like this in your weekly leadership meetings? Do you see leadership teams who've got this level of alignment? They all see things differently. And do any of these lines look like a potential leader that you have in your organization today, or that you've experienced in the past? Type that in the comments. I'd love to hear. So today we're going to take a real company. We've just anonymized it and changed all the names, including the name of the company is ACH Solutions. They're in the B2B and SaaS industry is what we made up as the industry that they're in. But I want to make a specific note here. This could be a SaaS company. It could be consulting, engineering, or tech-enabled services. Misalignment looks the same in every organization, mid-market or otherwise. They perceive things differently. The fact is, this is a healthy company. There are good margins, decent retention, and smart people. But if they have friction patterns, and everyone does, including you. Let's see, we got a couple of comments in here. Michael Clegg, unspoken expectations, death to many relationships, and co-planning is a relationship. Michael, spot on. I love what you're saying here, kind of glomming onto what Tom said a little earlier about the poor planning. Sometimes it's poor plans, but it's the relationship between people, as you're saying here, Michael, that had so much depth and potential complexity and acceleration to the organization. Michael also says these lines look like chaos. Yeah, I'm gonna walk through that a little bit more. I mean, hopefully you've been or you've witnessed an organization where everyone's got opinions and their opinions are different. It's what creates politics is how they all see things differently. So yeah, it can look like chaos until you can start to read the map. So coming back to the slide again, what that friction map reveals. Okay. And the reason I want to focus in on this is because this is where the revenue inconsistencies and the margin surprises come from in that organization, because people see things differently. And I want to make a really um, a distinct point here. Friction isn't emotional, it's operational. If, as a number of people here have been chiming in the comments, we all see things slightly differently. If we're in the same exact organization, this is ACH Solutions. Some people out here, you can see this person over here sees that the employee engagement is really, really high, right? Employee engagement, customer retention, revenue growth. These are high numbers for that individual, but you can also see closer into the center here, some people who don't see it so high. Someone sees it as a really low score. Somebody else sees it as a really high score. How does that affect things? And to your point, Michael, this creates chaos because they're going to make different decisions. They're going to operate in completely different ways. Anne Hartley says this is the source of operational silos. Bingo. This is the visualization of what those silos look like and why people are siloed. Junaid pops in and says, Michael Clegg, I agree. How alignments are possible among this level of chaos? Yeah, this is the challenge, is how do you get a whole team aligned when people are seeing their reality or making decisions from completely different perspectives? This is the challenge. It's why Gartner says that 67% of companies miss their goals every year. So I'm curious, just as you're hearing this, what do you think are the most effective ways to build that alignment? I'm curious. Because as we go a little further forward here, we can start to see how this friction map and seeing this friction map and being able to visualize it and understand it, this potential chaos, being able to see the chaos and understand and deconstruct this chaos changes your odds of success. And that's what we're going to do here in the course of the next couple of slides. Because when your leaders see different realities, your success odds drop quietly. And you can see a number here. If we look at this organization, the metrics or the prediction engines statistics lead us to say the realistic chance of success is probably between 45 and 55%. They may have had a fantastic plan, this organization. This was from their 2025 plan. They may have had a fantastic plan, but because there's so much misalignment, they never really had much chance, maybe a 50% chance. Because most CEOs or leaders in organizations never get the visibility into this until it's too late, until it's 6 weeks into 2026 or 12 weeks into 2026. At that point in time, you're fighting fires again and kind of rolling your head saying, oh, again. This is why you feel uneasy even when the plan looks good on paper. Is because sometimes everyone in the team walks out of the room in alignment, but they're making decisions differently. Curious, how are people seeing this? Is this resonating with you? Is this something that you've experienced, been part of, or currently part of? Put it into the comments. I'd love to see what you're seeing here. So before we can map your whole leadership team, we start with an individual. We start with you. It's the process to get this diagnostic map takes 3 minutes. You'll get your own friction map. It starts with you as an individual. That report's free, and this is a snapshot of what it looks like. And it's a gateway to seeing how your team aligns with you. First, you got to do yourself, and then you do the rest of the team. Remember, this only takes a couple of minutes. You get the report instantly, and it's emailed to you within a couple of minutes. Let's see. Another comment in here for Anne Hartley. Create a shared understanding of how the enterprise, especially leadership, actually works. Yeah, and I based on what I know that you do or what I remember that you do, this is probably the work that most leadership teams don't spend enough time doing, getting alignment. The analogy I use with people all the time is if you have a car and the left wheel is going left and the right wheel is going right, it doesn't matter how much horsepower you have in that car, it's not going forward very fast. You got to get all the wheels pointing in the same direction. So with this report, what you get, I'll show you the link here in a little bit. This is the first time you'll see your own blind spots quantified, that gut feel of that you have about yourself and how you look at themes in your organization. And this map becomes the anchor for the team friction map, the one that looks like chaos, as Michael called it. In order to be able to see that chaos and understand what it looks like and be able to respond to that, we need to start with an individual. Remember this. It only takes about 3 minutes, and it'll be emailed to you in about 15. And this is where we are right now in this kind of little area right here. So on your smartphone, I'll show you a link here in a little bit. You get that personalized core map. It'll give you an individual map. And that's the first step in moving towards getting a friction map for the whole organization. And this step is how you unlock a whole team map, because you can't map the team until we map you first. And that's why this individual step matters. And what does that mean? It leads you to part of what you were saying here, Anne, about creating the shared understanding. That 3-minute exercise of doing this friction map, it goes from you might feel aligned, but most leadership teams always carry away different assumptions. We can now start to see what those assumptions are. And the only way to see that is by looking at that map, the chaos. The report is free, but it's a X-ray into the leadership of the organization in a couple of moments. Because here's the thing, teams don't disagree on goals, they disagree on their assumptions. It's not a heavy lift. I'll tell you, once you spent that 3 minutes, that is everything. That is the heavy lift. And once your team completes the core, everything else is almost 100% automated from that point forward. I do want to say this is not a culture survey. It's not a personality tool. This is a quantified map of execution risk. Having run multiple different companies in the past myself, this is the map I wish I'd had for my board and for myself all along. Because if I'd had this, people wouldn't be constantly asking me for clarity in terms of where we're going, what we're doing, why we're making decisions. This map shows, quantifiably so, how and why decisions are being made the way they are. So if this is the leadership x-ray that you've never had before, when you show this to your team, your credibility will start to jump because the map does the talking for you. Hey team, this is what we look like. And if this is the friction map of an organization out there, I think they were about a $53 million company in the retail space, the actual company, there's lots of blind spots. This now starts to expose what those blind spots look like, because alignment isn't just a feeling, it's a measurement. So if you want to get your own personal friction map, completely free, you'll just get a PDF emailed to you. There's no obligation after that. But if you take it today, I'll walk through the map with you on Tuesday. We walk people through how to read their maps, how to read their frictions, and what happens next in their process. If they decide to go to the next stage, that's completely up to them. But you will see what you probably have always known about yourself as a leader for a long time. It's a private event on Tuesday. In order to be able to get invited to that event, you'll either scan this QR code and fill out this diagnostic, the 3-minute diagnostic, or you can go to carmo.net/friction live and it'll take you there. Zero pressure, just your actual data. There are 5 seats available because we want to try to keep it nice, intimate, and make sure that everyone gets high value out of it. So it's first come, first serve. I want to leave you with this idea. Organizations, many of you have already built a really strong organization. And the next stage really just requires more clarity and stronger clarity. You don't need more effort. You just need a clear picture of the destination that you're heading towards. Now consider on Tuesday, we're not going to read everyone's maps. So if you fill one of these diagnostics out, we'll invite you in. But I'd love to open it up for questions. If anyone's has any questions or clarifications they would like, please chime in the comments. If not, I'll be putting our country music back on, the one that I created with AI. I would love to. I'd love to hear what you think.
I've walked that line, stood tall on the ridge, thinking the view meant the path was solid. Then watched it drop into a valley of confusion, feeling trapped inside the plan I built myself. But mountains aren't the enemy, blind spots or see the friction early and the climb turns clean. See it late and the valley steals your time, your momentum, your year, your revenue. If you want